Where to check for rust on a Mercedes W113 chassis. So, to help some of you guys who might be looking for 280, 250, and 230 SLs, I want to make a video about where to check for rust on these cars and what some rust means compared to other rust. So, I got my model 230 SL out. Oops. Okay, well, regardless. I know they're not always perfect, but this is the 230 SL that I keep on my desk. Some of you might recognize it from a trip to the shop. And one of the first places that I always like to look for rust on one of these cars is going to be right in here. Yep, just above where the rear control arm attaches to the body. Now this is sort of a simplification of the underside of the car, but you really want to look starting right here where the rear jack points are, and then you want to go inboard and look for metal patching right in front of each rear wheel. And then right about here, it's kind of hard to see. Let me use this little tab as a pointer, but in this area right here, there's actually a structural reinforcement. And that area really likes to trap water and rust. And so this can lead to a massive structural compromise, although I wouldn't say throw the car away. I would say it is a lot of fun to repair if it's bad. So that's one of the first places that I tell people to look. Now, another great place to look for rust on a 113 chassis is here in the firewall. So we're going to look, car's just falling apart. Must have been restored in the Philippines or something, or Hispaniola, where they have pagoda restoration shops there, believe it or not. You really want to look in here against the firewall down by the brake booster. You want to look down here in the well against the firewall pad where the AC equipment usually is. So those are two important ones. Now, of course, underneath the car, going back to the underside of the car, you really want to check the front rockers up here. These cars have rocker covers that have to be removed if you really want to know what's going on. So, to give you an example, we had a 230 SL in here. Once we removed the rocker covers, we could see all the ugliness of the car, We had another car that I thought was kind of an average car, but then when I looked at the underneath the rocker covers, it was pristine, so I guess it wasn't so bad. But this area is not super hard to fix if you're dealing with a metal shop that actually knows what they're doing. Now, another area where you're going to be looking for rust is in the trunk pan. This is an early 230 SL model. It's got a spare tire well on the left side. But you're going to want to check the trunk pan for rust or a poor repair. And you're going to want to check down here in the rear tail panel underneath the rear bumpers in this area for bubbling and rust. Now, some other areas where rust can occur that sometimes go undetected are right in here underneath the juncture. I'm trying to figure out a way to display this, where the fender meets the inner fender. You want to look in here for rust. That's a big one, especially if the car's had an attempted repair. And you also want to check, other than the floors and the rear floors and like the top compartment area and stuff, you also want to check down here under the battery in the front left wheel well. You also want to check the top of the fenders for any poor repairs and Bondo from mud being slung up there. You want to check wheel arches, particularly on European cars that were exposed to salt. So what you might be looking for here isn't necessarily no rust, but signs of metal work in the past and a determination as to whether the metal work was any good. Now notice I didn't say doors, hood, trunk lid, because the all those parts are aluminum. And I think this trunklet actually opens. Does it? Yeah. Come on, you. There you go. They put the spare wheel in here wrong, but most of the time I see the rust forming in the left, right, and rear sides rather than the center of the trunk pan. So anyway, that's sort of, I think that sort of covers it. Actually, the 113 series cars were only average rusters. They were not real bad about it. Their rust areas are fairly consistent. The rust proofing on the cars for the time was extremely high quality. I'd say the area you should really pay attention to is the first one we mentioned right here by the back axle, because that's where you're going to spend most of the money. You know, this whole floor frame unit, bulkhead, structural rail system up here was really quite rust-free on these cars. So, of course, you always want to look for bad accident repairs, but that's going to be another video in a few months once I'm done learning everything I can about that stuff. So hopefully you learned something from this video. If you did, please subscribe to our channel. Please like and share this video and tap the bell for notifications. We'd also appreciate the comment section if you guys can think of another area where you've seen rust regularly on a 113. And finally, the last thing is I wanted to say thanks to all of our Patreon supporters. We really appreciate you guys. And keep watching for more great Mercedes information.